Have you ever wondered why this message found you now and not a day later? Because timing in God's kingdom is never random. If you're watching this before November 12th, you've been chosen for a shift that heaven already scheduled. While others see just another date on the calendar, God sees divine alignment. This is not coincidence. It's confirmation. Something powerful is being prepared in your favor, and this message is the sign you prayed for. God is saying, you are not behind. You are right on time for what I'm about to release. The waiting is over. And what's coming next will make every delay worth it. 1. When God chooses you, timing becomes divine. And when God chooses you, the timeline of your life shifts from human schedule to heavenly sequence. Nothing happens too early or too late. Every delay becomes design. The things you once called coincidences were actually confirmations in disguise. You may not understand the timing, but divine timing is never built for understanding. It's built for trust. God doesn't operate by clocks or calendars. He moves by purpose. And when your moment comes, it doesn't just arrive. It aligns everything around it. Divine timing often hides behind what feels like disappointment. You prayed, you waited, you watched others move ahead, and you wondered why heaven was silent. But chosen people are not delayed, they're prepared. While others rush, God refines you. He's not just giving you a blessing, He's building the character that can protect it. The silence wasn't rejection, it was calibration. Heaven was making sure the next door would open when your spirit was mature enough to handle what was behind it. When God chooses you, even detours serve destiny. What looked like failure was actually redirection. The road that broke your heart was the one that saved your future. You were never behind. You were being positioned. Divine timing means God knew when you'd be ready, even when you didn't. That's why certain things didn't work out, because they were meant for a version of you that no longer exists. The old season couldn't carry the new you. Sometimes divine timing looks unfair until you see the full picture. You'll realize that what you lost wasn't a setback. It was strategy. God delayed that opportunity because it would have distracted you from destiny. He closed one door to keep you from entering a room too small for your calling. When you are chosen, you're not denied what others have. You're preserved for what they can't carry. Heaven's timing always feels slow until it suddenly feels perfect. God's timing exposes trust. When He makes you wait, He's not punishing you. He's inviting you to believe beyond sight. Every not yet from God is still a yes in progress. The blessing is not late, it's loading. And the proof that you're chosen is that your spirit can feel something forming even when your eyes see nothing changing. That awareness is faith maturing inside you. When you are chosen, time bends to favor you. What others labor years to build, God accelerates for you in moments. Divine favor doesn't follow human logic. It follows divine order. When heaven decides it's your time, everything begins to cooperate with your destiny. Delays turn into acceleration and losses turn into leverage. God redeems wasted seasons by multiplying what comes next. There's a rhythm in divine timing. A flow between surrender and action. You're called to move, but not to rush. Faith walks at God's pace, not the world's pressure. You learn that patience is not passivity, it's prophetic positioning. When you stay aligned in obedience, you'll find yourself in the right place at the right moment without forcing a thing. Chosen people carry peace in waiting because they know timing is God's language of love. If He holds it back, it's not rejection, it's protection. If He releases it now, it's because you're ready. The one who trusts His timing no longer panics when things pause. They've learned that divine timing is not about speed, it's about synchronization between heaven's plan and earth's readiness. When your time finally arrives, it won't need validation. Everything will fall into place naturally. Relationships, opportunities, resources, as if the universe itself had been rehearsing your arrival. That's what divine timing feels like, effortless unfolding. What took years of confusion will make perfect sense in seconds when heaven's clock strikes your name. So if this message found you before November 12th, know this: your waiting has not been wasted. God's timing has reached its appointed hour. You were chosen not just to receive, but to reflect His precision. Every delay was divine rehearsal, and now the curtain is rising. The stage is ready, your spirit is steady, and heaven has whispered, now. When God chooses you, time itself bows to purpose, and everything begins to move in your favor. Heaven moves when the earth feels still. When life feels frozen and motionless, it's easy to assume that heaven has gone silent. But stillness is not absence, it's activity unseen. God often works in the quiet because divine movements are too sacred for noise. While you think nothing is shifting, heaven is constructing what you've been praying for. What looks like pause in the natural is often progress in the spiritual. When the earth feels still, heaven is aligning everything for perfect release. God's greatest work rarely begins with sound. It begins with silence. Creation itself started in stillness. Before "let there be light," there was nothing but divine intention. The same pattern continues today. Before manifestation, there's motion you cannot see. The silence you fear is often the space where God shapes your breakthrough. He moves best when you stop forcing outcomes and allow His invisible hand to orchestrate the unseen. Stillness exposes faith. Anyone can believe when movement is visible, but real trust is proven in the pause. The still moments separate the impatient from the prepared. God uses them to reveal who truly depends on Him, not just on results. If you can stay faithful in seasons where nothing seems to move, heaven can trust you with seasons where everything moves at once. There's a rhythm to God's silence, a divine pulse hidden beneath what feels stagnant. He lets time slow down so you can learn stillness, not as punishment, but as partnership. He's not making you wait idly. He's teaching you to perceive activity in subtle ways. When heaven moves, it doesn't always shake the ground. Sometimes it shifts your heart. The earth's stillness is heaven's construction zone. God uses what feels like nothing to build everything. You may see closed doors, unanswered prayers, or prolonged quiet, but beneath it all, divine blueprints are being executed. The delay is not dysfunction, it's design. What God is creating for you must first be perfected before it appears. Sometimes God quiets your world so you can finally hear His whisper. He silences distractions not to isolate you, but to instruct you. When heaven moves quietly, your sensitivity grows. You start noticing divine details you once ignored. Peace in waiting, beauty in stillness, assurance without evidence. These become signs that heaven is nearer than noise can reveal. When everything around you feels still, it's a sign that God is shifting what's within you. Before He changes your surroundings, He transforms your spirit. Stillness prepares you for sustainability. If you can remain patient in calm, you can remain focused in chaos. Heaven uses slow seasons to build unshakable faith. The silence of heaven is not a void, it's a vault. It's where promises are stored until the appointed time. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean the miracle is inactive. Heaven doesn't report its progress to impatience. God moves in divine secrecy to protect the purity of His plan. Stillness is heaven's way of hiding acceleration. You think you're being delayed, but you're being positioned for divine timing. When things look stillest, it's usually right before the shift. The ground feels quietest before it trembles. The seed seems dead before it breaks open. In stillness, growth is always happening underground. When heaven moves, it doesn't need your permission. It only needs your posture. Your stillness is an act of faith. Every time you resist panic and choose peace, you align yourself with divine momentum. Heaven isn't waiting for the world to change. It's waiting for your spirit to rest in trust. You may feel forgotten, but heaven never loses track of your timeline. God's plans don't pause because you can't perceive them. The angels assigned to your promise are still at work. The instructions still unfolding, the miracles still forming. The stillness you feel is a sacred covering, protection from interference until everything is complete. Heaven moves most when your hands are off the wheel. As long as you try to control outcomes, you'll delay divine order. The moment you surrender, heaven begins to accelerate. God can't steer what you refuse to release. Stillness isn't inactivity. It's intentional trust that lets heaven do what only heaven can. The still seasons teach you that progress is not always visible. You start recognizing miracles not by what's changing around you, but by what's strengthening within you. Peace in confusion is progress. Faith in silence is progress. Joy in waiting is progress. Heaven celebrates these victories long before the results arrive. Heaven's movement doesn't depend on your understanding. It depends on your alignment. When your heart stays steady and your spirit remains open, divine flow finds you. You realize that the waiting wasn't stillness at all. It was synchronization. Heaven wasn't late. It was layering your miracle with meaning. So the next time the earth feels still, don't assume God has stopped moving. Stillness is not the end of motion. It's the beginning of manifestation. Heaven's movements are subtle, but their outcomes are undeniable. You won't always feel it happening, but you'll always see the fruit when it's finished. The silence is temporary. The shift is eternal. Heaven moves even when you can't see it. And one day soon, the stillness that tested your patience will become the peace that proves His presence. 3. Your delay was not denial. It was preparation. Delay is not denial. It's divine discipline shaping you for destiny. When God delays something, He's not depriving you. He's developing you. He withholds certain blessings, not because you're forgotten, but because you're not yet fully formed. The blessing is ready, but sometimes the person must be too. What you call waiting, heaven calls training. Every delay carries divine design. Every pause is a masterclass in purpose. If God had given you what you wanted when you first asked, you would have settled for comfort instead of calling. He delays not to discourage you, but to deepen you. The waiting seasons expose impatience and refine faith. You learn to pray differently, think differently, and depend differently. The delay transforms your prayers from "Lord, give it to me" to "Lord, prepare me for it." Every delay contains hidden mercy. You think you're ready because desire burns strong, but God knows what your strength can handle. He delays so the blessing won't become a burden. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's insulating your future. The longer it takes, the deeper He's building the roots that will sustain the fruit. Delay teaches you the language of trust. It stretches your timeline, but strengthens your testimony. You start realizing that faith isn't about receiving fast. It's about remaining faithful. What looks like stillness in your life is actually God synchronizing heaven's calendar with your readiness. He's aligning your promise with His perfect pace. When you're chosen, God will never give you something that costs your character. That's why He lets delay do its sacred work. He's burning away immaturity, pride, and fear so that what He gives won't destroy you later. The waiting doesn't mean He said no. It means He's still saying yes, just not yet. The delay is not wasted time, it's sacred time. You may not see movement, but heaven is rearranging behind the scenes. People are being positioned, opportunities are being prepared, doors are being designed. The silence isn't empty, it's pregnant with purpose. Heaven doesn't rush creation, it refines it. God's delays are like divine classrooms. Every lesson in patience builds resilience. Every quiet day sharpens discernment. You begin to understand that what matters most isn't arrival, it's alignment. If He gave you everything instantly, you'd never learn how to sustain anything eternally. The waiting seasons build the strength that success will demand. Some blessings take time because they require the cooperation of others. God might be preparing hearts, opening doors, and softening attitudes around you. What you think is stagnation is actually coordination. Heaven is connecting invisible threads that will one day weave perfectly into your breakthrough. The delay also reveals your motives. God tests your heart in silence to purify your intention. Are you chasing blessings or the blesser? Do you want the promise or the presence? Delay filters your desires until only devotion remains. When that happens, the blessing becomes safe in your hands. Your delay is training your endurance. Every time you keep believing, despite the lack of evidence, your faith muscle grows stronger. God allows pauses to build spiritual stamina, because once the blessing arrives, you'll need the same strength to protect it that you needed to wait for it. Delay is God's way of perfecting His masterpiece in hiddenness. Just as a seed must stay buried before it breaks through the soil, your purpose matures underground. The darkness is not punishment, it's preparation. God hides you not because you're unqualified, but because exposure too early could limit your longevity. When heaven delays, it's not because it's uncertain, it's because it's exact. Divine timing is mathematical in precision. God counts not days, but developments. He watches over your growth and waits until every area of your life can sustain His promise. His delays are surgical, precise, protective, and purposeful. You'll know your delay was divine when you look back and realize you weren't ready then, but you are now. What once felt like heartbreak will become hindsight wisdom. You'll see that the people who left were meant to exit before your elevation. Every disappointment will look like direction once the curtain lifts. There are things you can only learn through waiting. Waiting teaches humility, dependency, and discernment. It reminds you that success in God's kingdom is not earned by speed, but by surrender. Every not yet is an invitation to lean closer, to trust deeper, to love stronger. Sometimes God delays your visible blessing to develop your invisible foundation. He works beneath the surface, fixing insecurities, healing old wounds, teaching patience. Because when the reward comes, it must stand on solid ground. Delay builds stability so that what rises doesn't collapse under the weight of favor. The beauty of divine delay is that when the answer finally comes, it carries authority. The doors that once resisted will now swing open without effort. The timing will be so perfect, it will erase every trace of frustration. You'll realize it was never random. It was rehearsed in heaven. Your waiting is evidence that God trusts you with process. He's shaping something sacred within you, something that cannot be rushed. The same fire that delays you is the one that refines you. When the season shifts, you won't just receive, you'll embody what you prayed for. Delay is a mirror of divine wisdom. It proves that God's love for you is greater than your urgency. He'd rather let you grow through preparation than watch you crumble through premature success. His patience with your process is his proof of protection. So don't curse your delay. Bless it. Thank God for not giving you what you wanted when you wanted it. The delay was your divine defense, the shield that covered you while he prepared something greater. Soon when the answer arrives, it will be too perfect to doubt. You'll see that every silent year was sacred construction. Your delay was never denial. It was God's way of preparing you for something worth the wait. 4. You were hidden so you could be revealed at the right time. Being hidden is not rejection, it's refinement. God hides the ones he intends to use greatly because premature exposure destroys potential. You've been asking, why does no one see me? And heaven whispers, because I'm still shaping you. Before God reveals you publicly, he molds you privately. Hiddenness is heaven's shield, protecting you from being seen too soon. The delay in visibility is not a delay in destiny. It's preparation for divine unveiling. When God hides you, it's because he's perfecting details the world isn't ready to witness yet. Hidden seasons are sacred. They are where character is built, habits are formed, and strength is refined. Everyone wants to be revealed, but few are willing to be refined. God knows that if he exposes you before you're equipped, the very platform meant to elevate you could collapse under your weight. So he conceals greatness in quiet places. Hiddenness teaches you to find worth without applause. It frees you from needing validation to feel valuable. When nobody's watching, you learn to do things for God, not for glory. That's where authenticity is born. In silence, in solitude, in service. The unseen seasons train your heart for unseen battles. What's developed in secret sustains what will one day be seen in public. God hides his treasures in plain sight. Diamonds form underground, oil comes from pressure, pearls grow in darkness. In the same way, your hiddenness is not punishment, it's process. Heaven never wastes time concealing something worthless. The deeper the hiding, the greater the glory that's coming. You are not being overlooked, you are being reserved. When God hides you, he is not holding you back. He is holding you together. Every invisible moment is cementing your identity in him. If you rise too soon, pride will build faster than purpose. Hiddenness humbles you until only purpose remains. That's why some doors stayed closed. They were protection, not rejection. God knew early access would become early exhaustion. You've been hidden so that your revelation will not need explanation. When the time comes, your fruit will speak louder than your introduction. People will wonder where you came from, but heaven will know you were growing underground. Hidden growth is the most powerful growth because it's sustained by faith, not fame. The world celebrates exposure, but God celebrates endurance. He doesn't rush revelation. He waits until obedience becomes your reflex. When you've learned to serve faithfully in silence, heaven says, now. Divine timing reveals prepared hearts, not perfect ones. You don't have to chase visibility. Your obedience will summon it at the right hour. There's a reason God works in secret, so no one can take credit for your success. When the curtain finally rises, people won't be able to say they made you. They'll only say, surely God's hand was on this. Hiddenness guarantees that glory stays where it belongs, with him. Your anonymity is your anointing being preserved. Sometimes God keeps you hidden to protect you from environments that would diminish your light. Not every place can handle your presence. He separates you to strengthen you. The loneliness you felt was divine insulation, not isolation. Heaven was building immunity against insecurity, preparing you for a stage where praise and criticism coexist. Hidden seasons purify your motives. When you have no audience, you discover who you're really performing for. God uses obscurity to detox your desire for validation. You stop needing approval and start craving alignment. When the applause no longer controls you, revelation no longer endangers you. You were hidden because your anointing needed incubation. Just like a baby can't survive outside the womb before its time, your calling needed covering until maturity. God placed you in silence to safeguard your spirit. He's been feeding your faith in the dark, growing you in grace so that when you emerge, you'll carry substance, not showmanship. Hiddenness sharpens discernment. When your platform is small, you learn to hear God clearly without competing voices. You learn to discern His go and His wait, His correction and His confirmation. The stillness trains your ear for the sound of destiny. So when He finally promotes you, you'll know His voice in the noise. Many people misinterpret hiddenness as insignificance, but the two are not the same. God hides what He values most. The ark was hidden, Jesus was hidden, Moses was hidden, all before they changed history. You're in good company when heaven conceals you. You're not forgotten. You're being fortified. You were hidden so that what's growing inside you would not be aborted by comparison. When no one is watching, you're free to evolve without pressure. God isolates His chosen ones so their identity is shaped by intimacy, not influence. You're not behind. You're being built in silence for strength in sight. Your hidden years are holy years. They're where you learn humility, patience, and perseverance. Every unnoticed effort is counted by heaven. Every quiet act of obedience echoes loudly in eternity. When your time comes, the world will call it sudden, but heaven will call it scheduled. You've been frustrated by the lack of recognition, but divine timing requires divine readiness. You can't rush what God is still refining. He hides you until exposure no longer tempts you, until service feels sweeter than spotlight, until purpose outweighs popularity. That's when revelation becomes safe. When you are hidden by God, even rejection works in your favor. Every no is divine insulation. Every delay, a protective wall. Heaven filters your access because not everyone deserves front row seats to your preparation. Some were removed not because they failed you, but because they couldn't handle who you were becoming. You were hidden so that your dependence would deepen. When you can't rely on visibility, you learn to rely on voice, God's voice. In hiddenness, He becomes your only source of validation. You start doing it for Him alone. That kind of purity becomes your power when the stage finally finds you. The right time is not random, it's revelation. When heaven decides the season of unveiling, no man can stop it. Opportunities will appear effortlessly, connections will align miraculously, and what once resisted you will now recognize you. The hidden will be highlighted not by effort but by evidence. Hiddenness gives your destiny durability. What grows in silence survives storms in public. God never reveals what He hasn't reinforced. You've been hidden long enough to learn endurance. Now the unveiling will reveal excellence. Your unseen struggle will become seen strength. Soon your name will reach places your feet haven't walked, not because you chased exposure, but because you embraced obscurity. Heaven promotes humility. God doesn't reveal the loud, He reveals the faithful. Your faith in hiding is what qualifies you for the harvest. And when the time finally comes, you won't need to announce yourself. The light of God within you will do that. Every closed season will make sense in a single moment. The same silence that once broke you will become the backdrop for your revelation. You were hidden, not forgotten. And now the appointed time has come for what heaven concealed to be revealed in glory. 5. The next blessing will arrive without warning. God's next move in your life will not come with an announcement. It will arrive quietly, unexpectedly, in a moment you least anticipate. Divine blessings rarely follow human timelines. They show up suddenly. When faith is steady, when the heart is surrendered, when obedience has become natural. What you've been praying for will not come with fireworks. It will come with fulfillment. One day you'll wake up and realize the season has shifted and what once felt far away is now right in front of you. The reason God sends blessings without warning is to prove that favor is not something you can control. It's something you receive. He doesn't want you predicting His hand. He wants you trusting His heart. When the blessing arrives, it won't be because of perfect planning, but because of perfect timing. Heaven releases miracles when your dependence outweighs your understanding. The blessings that take the longest are often the ones that appear the quickest. They seem to show up overnight, but they've been forming in secret for years. Every prayer, every tear, every seed you've sown has been feeding a promise hidden beneath the surface. When it's ready, it doesn't crawl, it bursts. The harvest of obedience is sudden. God loves to surprise His children. He delights in showing up when human logic has given up. You may think you've missed your window, but the truth is, He's been saving the best one for last. The next blessing won't come through striving. It will come through surrender. You'll see how everything that seemed delayed was just being divinely aligned. Sometimes God hides His biggest blessings behind ordinary days. You'll be doing something simple, working, praying, serving, and suddenly the phone rings, the door opens, the opportunity arrives. The ordinary moment becomes holy because heaven steps into it. That's why you must stay faithful in the mundane. The miraculous often hides inside it. When the next blessing comes, you won't have to chase it. It will chase you. It will find you exactly where obedience has kept you. You won't need to manipulate or prove your worth. It will locate you by divine recognition. Blessings are drawn to faithfulness like rivers flow to the sea. The next blessing will carry the element of surprise because God wants to remind you who the source truly is. He removes your ability to predict His moves so that you'll never confuse His grace with your grind. When He moves suddenly, He restores awe, that sacred reverence that says, only God could have done this. You may not see it coming, but you're being positioned for it. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment has quietly placed you in the perfect location for favor to find you. Divine blessings don't follow logic, they follow alignment. God is setting the stage in ways invisible to the impatient. When heaven releases a sudden blessing, it's not random, it's rehearsed. The miracle that feels instant to you has been in production for a long time. The timing had to synchronize, the people had to mature, the situation had to align. When everything clicks, it looks effortless. But heaven has been preparing that moment for years. God moves suddenly because He wants to break your rhythm of expectation. If you could calculate His timing, you'd stop relying on faith. But sudden blessings keep you in wonder. They prove that miracles are not earned, they're entrusted. They appear not when you're anxious, but when you're anchored. Sometimes God waits until you stop talking about the blessing before He brings it. He watches until your heart is no longer obsessed with the outcome, and only then does He release it. Because He doesn't just want to give you things, He wants to make sure those things won't take His place. The sudden blessing is reserved for the surrendered heart. You won't need to announce the next blessing. It will announce itself. People will see the shift and know something supernatural has happened. The favor will be visible, but the process behind it will remain invisible. God will make your results loud enough to silence every doubt, yet quiet enough to keep you humble. The suddenness of God's blessing reminds you that His ways are higher. He doesn't operate in linear time. He works in divine moments. Kairos, not chronos. One act of obedience, one whisper of faith, one quiet prayer can trigger an avalanche of abundance. That's how heaven moves, instantly, yet intentionally. When the blessing comes suddenly, it will feel almost unreal. You'll question if it's truly happening because it will unfold with such ease after such struggle. But that's the beauty of divine timing. God can make years of labor look like overnight success. The harvest will feel too fast because the roots went too deep. Your next blessing won't require you to fight for it. It will flow toward you. The struggle you endured was for preparation, not for pursuit. You won't have to beg this time. You'll just have to believe. The blessing will meet you at the intersection of peace and persistence. Sudden blessings are God's way of rewarding hidden consistency. Every time you kept doing good when no one noticed, heaven kept count. When you prayed through fatigue, served through frustration, and believed through silence, God marked those moments. The next blessing is your divine receipt for unseen faithfulness. There's a mystery in how God blesses. He hides acceleration inside of patience. When you think nothing is happening, He's building momentum. Then in one moment, the waiting collapses into fulfillment. The shift is so swift that you can only stand in awe. That's what without warning really means. You see the fruit, not the process. You don't have to prepare for the blessing. The blessing has been preparing for you. Heaven has been shaping it to fit your current maturity, your current assignment, your current season. What didn't fit you before will now align perfectly because both the gift and the giver have grown. When the blessing arrives, it won't just meet your need, it will exceed it. God never gives in fragments. His nature is overflow. The surprise will not just solve a problem, it will introduce a new level of purpose. It won't just change your circumstance, it will change your capacity. The blessing that comes without warning also comes without explanation. Some people won't understand how it happened. They'll wonder how you rose so suddenly, how things shifted so easily. But you'll know it wasn't strategy, it was surrender. It wasn't planning, it was providence. You will not have to perform to keep what God gives suddenly. Divine blessings are sustained by gratitude, not pressure. Your only responsibility will be to remain humble and thankful. The more you thank Him, the longer it flows. Gratitude keeps the gates open. Sometimes God surprises you because He wants to restore your wonder. You've prayed so long that hope started to fade. Then suddenly He does something that rekindles your faith. The blessing becomes a love letter from heaven, proof that He was listening the entire time. The next blessing will also be a test. Can you stay grounded when favor arrives? Can you keep praying when provision is plenty? God blesses suddenly not to spoil you, but to strengthen you, to show that the same faith that waited for it must now steward it. Every sudden blessing carries a lesson in stewardship. When increase arrives, humility must grow beside it. God hides wisdom inside prosperity so that what you gain doesn't gain control of you. He promotes those who remember where they came from even while standing in new territory. The surprise blessing will teach you to trust silence more deeply. It will prove that God doesn't need to announce His moves to make them real. Heaven's best work is quiet until it's complete. When it's revealed, it speaks louder than any prophecy. When the next blessing comes, it won't knock politely. It will enter like light breaking through a window. It will illuminate everything dull, revive everything dead, restore everything lost. You'll realize that every delay was an invisible countdown to this very moment. You are closer than you think. The next blessing could appear in an hour, a day, a week. It doesn't matter when, because heaven's timeline is not bound by clocks. Stay faithful, stay ready. The divine surprise is already en route. And when it arrives, remember this: it came without warning so that your gratitude would come without limit. The suddenness will humble you, the timing will stun you, and the blessing will sustain you. Because God moves suddenly, not to shock your life, but to remind you He's still in control of it. 6. This message reached you because heaven has already decided your turn has come. You didn't stumble upon this message. You were summoned by it. Heaven doesn't waste words. When God allows a message to find you, it's because timing and purpose have collided. This isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. Somewhere in the unseen, your name has been spoken. The season that felt delayed has now been declared. Heaven has already decided. It's your turn. There comes a moment in every believer's life when waiting ends. Not because circumstances change, but because heaven issues a divine decree. Your turn isn't decided by people, promotions, or systems. It's decided by God's word. And when He says now, everything that resisted you begins to release you. This message is evidence that something has shifted in the spiritual realm. You were drawn to it because heaven wanted to signal alignment. Every struggle, every delay, every silent prayer was leading you here. You're standing at the threshold of manifestation, not by chance, but by divine orchestration. You've been hidden, stretched, and tested long enough. Heaven never forgets those who remain faithful in obscurity. While you thought nothing was happening, angels were being assigned, doors were being prepared, and hearts were being moved in your favor. You are not waiting anymore. You are being revealed. When God decides your turn has come, no one can interrupt it. Not your past, not your mistakes, not your enemies. Heaven's yes overrides every earthly no. This is why certain things that were stuck will begin to flow effortlessly. What was once closed will open without explanation because divine timing has spoken. This message didn't reach you randomly. It was released on schedule. Heaven has perfect precision. God doesn't work in generalities, He works in details. The fact that you're reading this now means your waiting season has officially expired. The shift has already begun, even if you can't see it yet. When heaven decides your turn has come, everything around you begins to rearrange. Conversations start aligning, opportunities start appearing, and peace begins to replace pressure. The spiritual realm moves first, the physical catches up later. What's about to happen will feel sudden, but it's been in motion for a long time. Heaven has already written the next chapter of your story, and it begins with breakthrough. The weariness you feel is not because you're weak, it's because you're close. Labor always intensifies before birth. What you've been carrying is about to manifest, not by your strength, but by His Spirit. This message is heaven's whisper saying, you've waited well. The patience that felt wasted was actually your qualification. You've been tested in silence, refined through endurance, and now you're ready to hold what once was heavy. Heaven doesn't promote the impatient, it promotes the prepared. Your name has been mentioned in rooms you've never entered. Heaven's order has already been sent out. People, places, and provisions are being aligned for your release. What once seemed random will soon reveal divine rhythm. You'll realize that every step, even the painful ones, was part of the choreography of grace. When it's your turn, you won't have to force it. The doors will open naturally because heaven will push them for you. The same places that ignored you will begin to call for you. Divine reversal is the mark of divine timing. What once rejected you will soon require you. The reason this message resonates so deeply in your spirit is because your soul recognizes truth before your mind does. You can feel heaven confirming what you already sensed. The atmosphere has shifted. You've moved from waiting for it to walking into it. God doesn't need to announce your promotion for it to be real. He simply releases it and lets the results speak. Heaven has already approved what the world hasn't even seen yet. You're about to live in a season that doesn't make sense to logic but makes perfect sense to faith. This is not a random encouragement, it's a divine activation. Heaven is declaring over you, it is time. Time to rise, to receive, to step into what was once just a prayer. Everything that felt delayed was simply waiting for this alignment. Now that it's here, nothing can stop what's been set in motion. When your turn arrives, resistance loses its authority. You won't have to beg or bargain. Favor will flow naturally. The same God who saw you cry will now cause you to testify. You will not have to announce your shift. Your life will speak louder than any words. Heaven decided your turn before you ever asked for it. Long before you prayed, provision was prepared. Before you cried, comfort was assigned. Before you failed, forgiveness was granted. This is the moment where all of heaven's befores begin to become your nows. What's coming will not be partial. It will be perfect. God doesn't move halfway when He decides your time has come. He moves in fullness, full restoration, full favor, full joy. You're about to recover the years that felt wasted. Heaven's compensation plan has no limits. This message reached you because your spirit was ready to hear it. Divine messages don't travel randomly. They're magnetically pulled to hearts prepared to receive them. The fact that your heart stirred while reading this is proof that the seed has found its soil. When it's your turn, clarity comes easily. The confusion lifts, peace returns, and everything begins to make sense. The questions that once haunted you are answered through unfolding events. What once felt like chaos now feels like choreography. God's invisible hand revealed through divine timing. Heaven has already marked your name for manifestation. The waiting wasn't a delay. It was God clearing the path. The noise had to quiet before He revealed what was next. That's why things slowed down. Not because He forgot you, but because He was finalizing the details. You've entered the season of divine replacement. What was lost will be restored in double measure. The people who overlooked you will witness your elevation. Not because you demanded it, but because heaven decreed it. The stage is being set for God's glory, not your ego. This message is your spiritual confirmation slip. It's heaven's signature saying, it's approved. The waiting season is closing. The harvest season is here. You won't need signs anymore. The evidence will speak for itself. What you prayed for in faith will soon stand before you in form. When heaven decides your turn, acceleration begins. What took others years will take you months. What seemed impossible will suddenly become effortless. God redeems time for the obedient. He compresses delay into divine speed. This is the grace of those who waited without giving up. The beauty of divine timing is that it arrives disguised as ordinary days. There won't be a trumpet sound. There will be a quiet shift. You'll feel peace where panic used to live. You'll wake up and realize something invisible has changed. The spiritual calendar has flipped in your favor. This message reached you to awaken your awareness. Heaven is saying, stop waiting for confirmation. This is it. You've prayed enough, doubted enough, and waited enough. The door you've been standing in front of is about to unlock because heaven has decided it's time for it to open. When God decides your turn, He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't check with your past or consult your failures. He simply speaks and everything obeys. The same authority that created the universe is now commanding your breakthrough into existence. Heaven's timing is not random, it's relational. God moves when your heart posture matches His purpose. You've surrendered, you've trusted, you've endured, and now He's responding. Your faith has reached its fulfillment point. Very soon, you'll understand why you had to go through every season before this one. It all led here to recognition without striving, restoration without stress, revelation without confusion. Heaven doesn't owe explanations, it delivers manifestations. And when your turn unfolds, don't rush to broadcast it and live it. Let peace be your proof and gratitude be your voice. Those who doubted will see, those who mocked will marvel, and those who believed will rejoice with you. Because this is not just your season, this is your confirmation. So take this message not as information, but as activation. Heaven has already decided your turn has come. Walk forward with quiet confidence because what's been written in eternity is now unfolding in time. The wait is over. My friend, if this message reached you before November 12th, take it as more than coincidence. Take it as confirmation. You didn't stumble here by accident. Heaven led you. The delays, the closed doors, the long nights of wondering when, they were all part of divine preparation. God hides His chosen ones until the right moment, and that moment has finally arrived for you. The winds of change are already moving in your favor. You will soon see doors open that once refused to budge. Opportunities that were silent will suddenly speak your name. What felt forgotten is about to be remembered by heaven. So don't rush, don't doubt, stand in quiet faith, because when God decides your time has come, no force on earth can delay it. The blessing that's approaching won't just meet your expectations, it will surpass them. And when it happens, you'll look back and say, it was all worth the wait. You are chosen, you are seen, and this is your divine moment.